Every person is on their own individual journey, and there's no two people whose journeys are going to look identical. It's just not going to happen. And a lot of what happened to me was just very good timing. Now, you won't hear me use the word luck because I'm a big believer. And the funny thing about luck is it shows up to the people who put themselves in the right place at the right time. But I saw it and I took advantage of it. People want to follow that kind of a journey, then use it as a guide, use it as a template, but your journey is going to look different.
This is the Fit Investor Podcast, where we talk about how to live a more holistic life of being fit, not only financially, but physically and faithfully. We'll be joined by experts in all these areas to share their experiences and actionable and practical tips so that you can be a fit investor too. So now let's join our hosts, Cale Delaney and Brenna Carls.
Welcome to another episode of The Fit Investor. I'm your host, Cale Delaney, here with Brenna Body Slam Carls. And today our special guest is Mr. Derek Tellier. So Derek, at the age of 42, he decided it was time for some changes. He's 50 pounds overweight, out of shape, and stuck in a W-2 job. With a focus on diet and fitness, he lost 50 pounds in 9 months, took up running, completing his first half marathon under 2 hours in April 2017, and then a full marathon in spring 2018 in under 4 hours. This led to improving his body and improving his mind. And with the support of friends, he discovered financial freedom and real estate. And in 2018, he obtained his real estate license. The next year, he bought his first investment property using private money, executed the BRRRR strategy, regained all his cash flow, and generated $350 a month in cash flow. As a real estate agent, he's closed 4 transactions from October 18 to May 20 with 2 personal purchases. And then in spring 2020, he joined the short-term shop as a full-time agent buying short-term rentals. By the end of 2020, he quit his W-2 job, closed 40 transactions with the short-term shop that year. And then in 2021, joined GoBundance Emerge and became a full GoBundance member in April of 2021. And he was also a top agent with closing 130 transactions with the short-term shop in 2021, which is crazy. He currently is still a full-time agent in the Smoky Mountains. He owns 12 active short-term rentals, 2 long-term rentals, and a lot in Foley, Alabama, with plans to remodel his primary residence into another short-term rental. Loves to travel, attends GoBundance events, and enjoys getaways. He also has a 22-year-old daughter that works with him and a German Shepherd named Tuka. Mr. Derek, welcome to the Fit Investor.
Thank you, sir. I think you bought half of those in 2021.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
we
you
were
get
just,
credit for helping that journey.
So just for our audience, just a real quick snap back in time here. Like we were talking offline, this is like the original trio of me getting started in my journey. So
Band's back together again.
right. So when I had first gone out to the Smokies, I had contacted Avery on the way up there and she was out of town. And so she connected me with Derek. And so I met with Derek, took a look at some properties. He got me hooked on the Smokies. And then a few weeks later, we're under contract. We used Brenna for closing the loan on that property. And the rest is history. So cool to have you on, man.
My pleasure, man. Glad to be here. Glad to see all your success and everything that's come from those initial, from which I knew the day I met you, I was like, this guy's going to do something. He's pretty driven. You had your mind pretty much set up at that point. And I was on that journey too, because I was still a rookie back then. And man, it come a long way in a short period of time. I'll tell you that.
I know. I think we all need to make a shirt, the class of 2021 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Derek, why don't you take us through your journey? I know you just mentioned 2021, you were a rookie into the real estate, but where were you before that? How did you get up to that point?
Yeah, I was career in Harley Davidson, actually working as a service manager and director and initially a technician. That was where my life had been. And for most of my adult life, that's where I thought I was going to do. I was in that Dave Ramsey, just W-2 mindset world of you just get up, you get a job, you find a job you love, you like, right? That's the thing. You find a job you love and you never work a day again in your life. Problem is, when you find a job that you love and you start doing it every single day, eventually it gets to a point where you don't like that job anymore. And I had gotten to that point. I was in an industry that I loved. I loved being around motorcycles. I loved riding Harleys. I used to ride 17,000 miles a year, going back and forth to all the different stores that I used to operate as I grew within that business. But around 2016, I got on the trigger was, it was health first, it was fitness first. I got on a scale and I was 200 pounds on this scale. This was like the old rotary scale. I later found out that scale was reading about 10 pounds light. It was just an old cheap scale. So I was 210 pounds and 42 years old roughly. And I was miserable. I hated getting up, going to work. I wasn't happy at home. There was just nothing. I had nothing. And I just decided that it was time for a change. And it was just, I don't know, midlife crisis trigger. I just started paying attention to what I was eating, to what I was doing with my body. The big joke for 15 years, breakfast 5 days a week, every time I went to the Harley shop was Pop-Tarts, 2 Pop-Tarts every day for literally 15 years. I'm pretty sure I still bleed strawberry Pop-Tarts. I'm trying to get it out of my system. But yeah, stuff like that, eating bags of chips, drinking soda, just tons of crap I was putting in my body and had no concept. So I just started eating better, started drinking water, started eating healthier, no specific diet. I just started paying. I did enough research to recognize sugar was the really bad thing that everybody was consuming. So I just tried to pay more attention. If I was going to have a snack, I'd have chips and salsa or Chex Mix or something. It's very hard, high carb stuff, but it was just getting rid of the sugars, cutting out all the soda. And I lost initially about 30 pounds just doing that in about 6 months, just paying attention, eating more fruit, eating more vegetables, and never ate vegetables, eating decent meat and things of that nature. Then I started exercising because that was the next evolution. Harley shop very busy during the summer. So as fall came into play, I joined a gym, just a local Planet Fitness, started doing all their little fitness classes, started going to the gym literally 5 days a week. I would leave work, go straight to the gym. My buddy and all of our friend Luke Carl, I started talking to him and he had this race, this 5K that he did every year on the Monsters of Rock cruise. And I was like, hey man, I want to run this 5K with you. What do I need to do? He said, you could walk it. It's not that big of a deal. It's just more of a social thing. But my personality is no, I want to actually do something. So he helped coach me along a little bit and getting the right shoes. And initially I was all treadmill, get on treadmill, but in time, he turned me into a runner. I became a runner. He's like, what am I training you for? I'm like, I just want to be healthy. He's like, no, we need to pick a race. So literally in February of 2017, I signed up for the half marathon in Knoxville, which was in April of 2017. I gave him like 7 weeks to train me for a fairly brutal half marathon. It's about 700 or 800 feet of elevation gain. It's not a pushover half marathon. And we did it. I ran it by myself, finished in under 2 hours. It was like 1:56, which was reasonable for a 40-something-year-old who had never really run to go do that. And that continued the evolution. Again, came into the next step. The next year I was running a marathon with Luke. We ran the marathon in St. Louis together, finished in under 4 hours. Again, that was my target. And then after that, so now I've got my body is in better shape. And it's amazing that when you feel healthier, your mind gets healthier. So I started seeing more things and recognizing this dead end job I was in and what my opportunities looked like. And I went back to Luke again and he was like, you got to listen to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm like, what do you mean? How do I listen? I didn't even have a concept of audiobooks, Audible. That costs money. I was had no concept of abundance. So anyway, downloaded Audible, didn't even know how to use it. Downloaded podcast app, didn't know how to use it. Started listening to Bigger Pockets, started listening to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all the other books that came after that. And I was like, holy crap, I got to figure this out. So that led into get the real estate license and, the journey from there. I'll pause there and let you guys dig in if you want to before I just keep going, because I could just talk for an entire hour if you let me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So what I love is that number one, you obviously in midlife crisis, whatever you want to call it, but you had the epiphany, right? That something needed to change, right? And
Yeah.
You started with your fitness and you took a very simple step of just cutting the crap out of your diet. And I'm so happy you said it. Sugar is the thing that you cut out, because that's one of my hot button things is I'm so against sugar and the devastating effects that it has in the health, especially in the Western world. Almost everything that we eat has sugar, and it just causes so many poor effects in your body. But, the propaganda out there is still there that it's not such a bad thing.
Yeah.
And it drives me nuts.
But face it too, it tastes good too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a little chocolate cake every once in a while. It makes everybody smile.
I have to sit down one day and just see. I don't want to because I'll be depressed, but see like what all I eat that has sugar in it. Probably everything because
Yeah.
I like sugar. So I don't think I could be like, what rid of that. But
I didn't get rid of it by any means.
okay.
I pay more attention. I will look at labels. If I have a choice of two different things and one has 2 grams of added sugar and one has 8 grams of added sugar, I'm going for the 2 grams of added sugar.
Okay.
And I do look for monk fruit, stevia, any other kind of sugar substitute. So I pay more attention to that kind of stuff. But I still eat stuff that has sugar in meals. If you go out to eat anywhere, you're getting sugar, whether you want it, know it or not, unless you are bringing your own food or going to an extreme restaurant. It's hard to live a normal life.
It is. Yeah.
If you go to the extreme. So I look at it as I feel a whole lot healthier than I did. I'm not going to be an extremist on it. And I know you guys aren't either. Live a normal life. You can't put yourself in that position where you can't do what the majority does because it's just going to socially cause a problem. You can pay attention. I can go out to eat and choose to order the salmon and the salad as opposed to order the barbecue because we know that's got whatever. So you can make conscious choices without putting yourself in a position. Wait, I quit drinking alcohol early this year.
Just about to ask you about that because I'm like, that converts to sugar.
Yeah. And that was one of the things I got super healthy and I was still drinking alcohol, never a lot, but it's looking for those little 1% things. So it's not like you have to stop all this stuff. Just do it in moderation, take steps. You don't have to go from here to here or whatever. Just slowly evolve. All I did initially was pay attention, look at labels and decide, do I want to eat this right now or would I rather eat this instead? That's it. And I lost weight. That's a lot of weight in a really short period of time just by doing that.
Yeah.
Say this because I think I've said this multiple times on this podcast, but I keep reiterating it because you see all these weight loss success stories and you see all these people that go to the gym every day. And honestly, because I've been there before, you're an outsider looking in, like you think you have to like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to go to the gym every single day. I'm going to eat healthy. That's so much for your body to get acclimated to. And you said it perfectly. I don't even know if you said it. If you realize you said 1%. So how can I be 1% better?
Yep.
And you literally just started by, okay, what am I eating? Let me look into what I'm eating. And that's all you did. You didn't do anything else. And then you slowly added the exercise because your body was starting to get used to that habit. And I just want to preface with people that are listening. He didn't just go train for a marathon the day that he decided to look into his food. It's a pattern that keeps building as you progress.
And it evolves over time because I started hanging around the biohacking world and talking to some of these longevity guys. And I identified myself as a runner these last 5 years. I was running 30, 40 miles a week for a long time. And all these longevity guys were just beating me up over running. It's the worst thing you could do for your body. And it's all these different, but they're really anti-running. I'm not a gym guy. Hate going to the gym and just outright lifting weights. What you guys do on a regular basis bores the crap out of me. I can go for a run, listen to a podcast. And I did the gym thing for a couple of years. I had to get to a level where I needed that. I needed to build muscle. I needed to get better. But I was never wanting to get bulk up. I just wanted to be fit. I just wanted to be healthy. And so there's an aspect of that. So it evolves. And now I'm running less. And the thing that's the biggest impact for me, because I have maintained that weight. I went from 210 to, I actually went down to about 150, 155. A few people thought I was too thin. And especially when you lose that much weight in 8 months, it can look really scary to a lot of people. But I got up to around 160 by spring of 17. Really, I was hovering around 160. I have maintained that for 6 years now, and it's evolved over time. But now the biggest thing I do now that has an impact on me is intermittent fasting. Okay. So I got deep into that about a year and a half ago. And now I can exercise less. I can run less. By intermittent fasting, I maintain my weight and I still feel great. There's balance to it, but it has been a big game changer for me in the sense of not putting as much crap into my body and not having to put myself through the rigors of an exercise routine that has me an hour, 2 hours a day doing it. Because when you're working a lot, it's like, I want to do something efficient. So it's a good balance. So it's one other aspect, and it's one I've taken on that's helped me maintain.
What's your fasting schedule?
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Generally speaking, I do a 16-8 fast. I try to do that at least 5 to 6 days a week. So I try to eat my last meal or food or a little snack or something between 8 and 9. And then I won't eat until lunch. And usually that's noon to 1. Usually I try to push it to 1 to ensure I got in my 16 hours. So like I had, yesterday my meals were screwed up. I had basically a snack, a protein bar and some pistachios that led me till maybe just a little after 9 last night. So I haven't eaten anything today. I've drank 24 ounces or 33 ounces of water so far today. I drink a lot of water.
Already?
Yeah. Yeah. I drink 2 bottles of water within the first hour that I'm awake in the morning,
Wow.
with electrolytes and something in there, whether it's Element or Relight or something like that. I put that in one of the bottles every day. So I drink that, and then I'll eat lunch around 1. And if I stay active, if I stay busy, I might go to 2, 3. And every once in a while, I'll do a 24-hour. Like a couple weeks ago, I spent the weekend at my girlfriend's house, and Sunday we lazied around. We did nothing. I ate a bunch of crap. And Saturday night or Sunday night at 10 o'clock, I realize I'm having a snack, and I'm like, what am I doing? So I'm like, it's hard to do just a 24-hour fast at that point, because you're not going to eat at 10 o'clock the next night. So I ended up doing a 36-hour fast the next day. Yeah. I woke up Monday morning and said, I'm not eating today. And I just went through my day. And Tuesday I got up and I ate a late morning brunch, basically a small breakfast or something. I can't remember what I ate. And I've done that probably 3 or 4 times this year. Earlier this year, I did what ended up being a 68-hour fast, just coming and very impromptu. The week before I was doing, or 4 days before I was doing a Spartan race in Austin. We mentioned Austin earlier. I went and did a Spartan race in Austin, and I had one of those weekends where I just binged all weekend. I felt like crap. And I'm like, I'm going to do a fast. And it started as I'm going to do a 24. Then I'm like, how far can I push this? And I ended up doing a 68-hour fast, only because 72 hours was going to put me again at 10 o'clock. So it was either 68 and have dinner on the Wednesday night, or push myself to Thursday morning. But Saturday I was running a Spartan race. So I figured timing of that was going to work out good. So I did a 68-hour fast, ate dinner that Wednesday night, and then got onto my normal 16-8 routine. And then of course on Saturday before a Spartan race, we get up, we eat a big breakfast, we load up on carbs, and you do put some sugar, some glucose in your body when you're going to go do that kind of stuff.
I have so many questions. First, I've never had out of my mouth, never woke up and said, I'm not going to eat today. I don't think I don't know. I don't think I can. And then the other thing, I guess I could, but I don't want to. The other thing is or you're like, I'm just going to push it to 36. I'll never say that either, probably. So how did you do that do you get shaky? Do you get cranky? Because nobody would want to talk to me if I didn't eat for at least 12 hours.
Well, yeah, a little bit. Definitely. When I did the 68 was rough. That was the first time I've ever done that. And I had a headache by about hour 30, 36. I had a little bit of a headache just across, and it probably was there, but you have to build up to that. I was doing a 16-8 fast for probably a year. Started as a couple days a week, built it to 4 or 5 days a week. I was doing that for us. I had been doing it at least 4 to 5 days a week for a solid year before I did my first 24.
Oh, okay.
And then I had done, over the course of another year, I had done probably a half a dozen 24s before I attempted to do the 68. So you have to build up to that. You can't just wake up one day after eating normal and decide you're not going to eat for 3 days. You could, but your body is going to go into shock. You have to build it up. I like Dave Asprey. He's the godfather of biohacking. He credited as coining the term biohacking. He has a book called Fast This Way. And I read that well after I started the fasting thing, but it's a great one if you want to understand what fasting can do. And he does a chapter in the book that talks about male versus female. Female body is very different than a male body. A female body is not designed to fast because it has to sustain life for children and things of that nature. So it is very different. For women can't just dive into a same fasting. There are women that do it, but it's not as natural for a woman to do it because of that. Read the book.
I tell myself to make myself feel better. I
Yeah.
have to sustain life, so I don't fast.
Yeah. Exactly.
So with the 36 hours, I'm intrigued. Were you doing real estate at that time? And if so, were you having to barter and write any contracts in that time? Because I would lose my mind if I had to originate a stressful loan and not eat. Like I had to be good.
Yes and no. The longer fasts have been probably in the last year. I think I did my first 24 last year when I was living in Alabama. It has been, the longer fasts have been over the last year. Certainly not in 2021.
Yeah.
I started the 16-8 to 12-hour fast. I started that in 21, and that's not too bad. That's fairly easy to get into a rhythm of doing every once in a while. But yeah, no, I didn't try to do anything long. So yes, I was still doing real estate because I'm still doing real estate today. So it's not like I can just turn it off and stop. But yeah, it is a little bit stressful to build up to it. But
Yeah.
So you
Yeah, I
met Luke
started
through
doing
Harley Davidson?
huh?
You met Luke through Harley Davidson?
Kind of, yeah,
I didn't know that.
that's a whole nother story. I met Luke on the Monsters of Rock cruise. I met Luke
Oh, okay.
because he was a DJ on Sirius XM.
Yeah.
I'm a hair metal guy, go figure. And I'm listening to him as a DJ, and I decide to go on the Monsters of Rock cruise. Myself and my now ex-wife went on the Monsters of Rock cruise in 2012, I think, 2012 or 2013. And well, I wanted to live vicarious. I wanted to be a rock star, right? I wanted to hang out with rock stars. So Luke was a DJ, lived in Nashville and rode Harleys. I lived in East Tennessee and worked at Harley shops. So I introduced myself to him,
Okay.
and I'm really introverted. So to even go up to somebody like him and hand a business card to have a conversation was like stressful. But I walked up to him and handed him a business card basically and said, "Hey, I know you ride. You're only 3 hours away from me. We got some of the best riding in East Tennessee. If you ever want to come out or if you have any questions, holler at me." And I did that again the following year on the cruise. And that was when I met Avery. Avery was there with him on the second cruise. So that was 2013. So that's when I first met Avery. And we sat down and had lunch together that day. And then it was later that year that he finally reached out to me, asked me a question about his motorcycle. And then he found out I actually knew what I was talking about. And then we just started to build and connect from there. And then they started buying properties in the Smokies where I worked. So they came out for one weekend. I got him to bring his bike. I got my shop to work on his bike. We went and hung out at the cabin, and that's where the friendship really evolved and developed. So that would have been, I think, 2016.
I didn't know that. That's learn
Yeah.
something new every day.
I want to explore that a little more, but before we get off the fasting and the fitness there, yeah, I'm a big believer in the fasting and particularly intermittent fasting as well.
Yeah.
I started it not really with any intention of doing a specific like 16/8 fast or anything like that. It was just, I think I had read something just about working out on an empty stomach, benefits of an empty stomach.
Yeah.
But I work out in the morning, so I was like, oh, let me just try skipping breakfast and just working out and then eating later. And I was surprised at how easy it was.
Yeah.
I don't wake up hungry. Like I
Yep.
guess as much energy in the morning without eating as when I did, maybe even a little bit more. And even when I'm done, like I'm still not hungry. I could probably even go longer and skip lunch if I really wanted to.
Mhm.
So it's not the true like 16/8. It ends up probably like a 14/10 or something like that.
Yeah.
Because our dinner time is not always the same. So it
Sure.
kind of affects that a little bit. But yeah, I enjoy it. I'm totally good with not eating a breakfast or anything like that. And I feel a lot better.
Yeah, I was mostly more running and doing my exercise in the morning. When I first started, before I got into any of the fasting stuff, I was exercising at night because I was getting up, going to work in the morning. Now it's exercise at night. I'm not a 4:30 in the morning guy. For a while, I did 5:30 in the morning. I'd get up, go for a run, go to work, and then I would go to the gym after work. So I was getting in 2 a day, basically, when I was first really trying to streamline and get myself putting all the effort in on the front end. But I definitely do encourage, there's a reason behind the 16. It has to do with putting your body into ketosis and getting some of the benefits of that. And it's about that 15, 16-hour mark is when that triggers. And then your body is actually burning more fat because it's not burning the glucose and the sugars. I'm not an expert on this, but fastest way helps break it down. And if you listen to any Dave Asprey stuff, he's really big on that. He talks a lot about it was his big life-changing thing for him. So there's some logic behind what your body does after certain timelines. But anything, yeah, it's good to do if you've got the energy. Now, I did make one mistake during my 68-hour fast because I was getting ready to do a race. I think it was Tuesday morning that week. I decided to get up and go for a run. Now, Tuesday morning, I had not eaten since Sunday night. So I'm at like 30 something hours and I decided to go up and run 5 miles. Don't recommend that. That was, and it was hot. This was May here in the Smokies. It was definitely one of the tougher runs I've done in a while. And I think that impacted me struggling a little bit for the next 24 hours because I tried to do that to myself. Yeah, you do want to be cautious.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, there's tons and tons of different ways to fast and it's strictly no food fasting.
Yeah.
There's just eating vegetables or juices, that type of thing. And now that I've done it actually, so when we were under contract on that very first property back in 2021 there, I was doing a Daniel fast with our church, which,
I remember that.
a vegetable thing.
I forgot about that.
I
Yeah,
remember that too.
reminded me as well. And so it's like it's a month long where you just eat vegetables, right?
Yeah.
A vegetarian more or less for a month.
Yeah.
And we ended up extending it because, and for me, it's a bit of a faith thing as well. Scripture talks about fasting and benefits of it. And so when we were under contract on that, I think our fast was over like maybe, I don't know, a little bit before we closed or something. I was like, we're going to extend this out of my dedication or my devotion for the faith and prayer. I'm going to extend this past year until this thing closes, until we're up and running here. And hey, thankfully things worked out, but
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that until just now, because I remember
That
you
is
telling
true.
me that on the phone, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? That's telling me there's so much stress. Like, with
that was just
contract.
yesterday. About to me. Come on.
And then I remember,
Yeah.
I'm like, I haven't changed. My personality hasn't changed. I think I said that, and then you said, I think I'm going to extend it. And I was like, this guy isn't say. I didn't say that to you.
Yeah, he thought it.
But in my head, I was like, this guy's not right in the head. But obviously, you were.
I like meat way too much. I like and I know a couple of vegans who are like, man, will put anybody to shame as far as their fitness level. They clearly get their protein. They are phenomenal shape and pure vegan. Blows my mind. I like my protein. I'd rather go carnivore than go vegetarian. It's just so many different ways.
Yeah, I don't think I could do it for the vegetarian thing for any extended period, but honestly, I did enjoy it during that time. We ended up eating like a lot of soups, which for me was fun. I love it, but I do regret it was hard. Like when we traveled out to Tennessee to start set up, especially driving up there, like I got very tired of the whatever the little veggie thing is that they have at Subway.
Oh,
That's all we had.
Yep.
We're gonna eat. I'm cheap. I just spent all my money and
when you hear Smoky Mountains, you don't think of healthy.
No.
Vegan.
No, this is Southern comfort food and it's tourist town, and it is tough. Yeah. And there's no Whole Foods, right? There's none of those kinds of places in severe.
There's whole buffets.
Yeah, there's whole buffets. So it is a struggle, no doubt. I get Factor, the meal. I started doing Factor this year. So I get 10 of those shipped to me every Tuesday. And so I eat those more than I'll eat them twice a day, 5 days a week. And then I'll go out to eat like on a Saturday and then whatever, mix in a few other regular meals. But you just got to do what you got to do with where you're at.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask you about the Factor thing, because I heard you talk about that before, and I was thinking of doing that because that's one of my things right now. Is I'm really bad right now with eating lunch.
Yeah,
and it's just so extremely inconsistent. A lot of days I will skipping it because I forget. Like I'm thinking that by the time I remember, it's 3-4 o'clock, and I'm going to be dinner in a couple hours, and I'm not going to eat. So it's something I need to work on, is getting consistent. And part of it is just because we don't always have stuff at home that it's easy to make a lunch quick, and it's just a pain in the butt, frankly.
Factor's great. It's like having a TV dinner, right? But it's actually healthy and it's decent. Right. It's got a good balance.
Decent portions.
Yeah, they are. They're not huge. I certainly, if I'm hungry, I could easily eat 2 of them for dinner. But if you get yourself in a good situation, and if you're working out a lot and you're bulking up, you're going to take more protein. You're going to need more calories than if you're just trying to sustain. I'm just trying to sustain now, and I don't burn a ton of calories because I don't work out and exercise as much. I do some exercise almost every day. I still run at least 1 day a week. So I'm still burning the calories. So you got to balance it with what makes sense for you. But as far as a good, solid, just regular meal, 500-600 calories, depending on different levels of proteins, what you're looking for, they have different ones. They're a great meal.
Yeah.
Derek, if you need to share them your coupon code or whatever it's called. So you can get
remind me after there's a code. You can
good. Yeah. Sunday
get a discount.
I also recommend
the first box anyway.
Clean Eat. Have you heard of Clean Eats, Derek? I know there's actual locations in Knoxville where they have online ordering too, and I do that a lot.
One time I was going to my girlfriend's in Maryville, and she's like, stop at Clean Eats and just get me this and pick out whatever you want. I didn't know it was there. It wasn't there when I lived in Maryville. So I tried it. That's the only time I've ever eaten it. It was very good. No complaints whatsoever. The Factor's easy. Yeah. It's set up, it's subscription. I go in once a week, make sure I'm getting the meals I want. It shows up on my doorstep on Tuesday nights, and I'm good. And I'm all about easy. I want to find the easiest thing to do. And I do.
You need to share your coupon code on this, because then if people use it, you get free meals for months.
I'll send you. I'll give you the link. I'll after, and I will give that to you. You can post in the show notes, and maybe I can end up with a year's worth of Factors.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to sign up for it.
Derek's going to start gaining weight because he's going to be eating too much fat.
Nice.
And we were talking offline about it, but obviously your mindset is something that you're focusing on a lot now, obviously. And you touched on with us before, some of the philosophies and things like that you follow now.
Yep.
Maybe you can touch on that a little bit, the Amor Fati.
Yeah.
Um,
So as part of the journey, I started listening to a lot of podcasts and a lot of audiobooks. And one of the things that I really ended up being drawn to was Ryan Holiday, who I think the first book I listened to by him was called The Obstacle is the Way. That was his first book in this kind of the series of what he did. Now he was a marketing guy, and his first couple of books were marketing books, but he really loved the obscure Roman ancient philosophy of Stoicism. It was something he was drawn to. So he started to write these books on Stoicism, and I was listening to this stuff, and it just really connected with me. And what it had to do was being in control. The most simple premise of Stoicism is everything in the world can be put into two categories: things that we control and things that we don't control. If we don't control them, then why do we let them affect us so much? So that is the simple, basic. I could go on and on for hours about Stoicism and getting into the details, but that is the basic principle concept. So his first book was called The Obstacle is the Way, with the idea behind that being that the impediment to action advances action. What's in the way becomes the way, is the quote from it. So that when you hit an obstacle, recognize that obstacle is not actually an obstacle. That obstacle is an opportunity to move down a path that you need to go down. The other phrase you mentioned, amor fati, comes from that. It wasn't actually a phrase or a philosophy that was used in the Stoicism. It was actually coined by Nietzsche like centuries later, but it adopted the same concept, with basically loosely translates to love fate, which the idea being that everything that happens to you happens for you, not to you. And you can't just merely accept that this happened, whether it's a sickness, an accident, a contract falling out, whatever it is. It's not just, oh crap, that happened. Okay, I'll deal with it. It's actually going, man, I am so glad that happened because of X. It gave me the opportunity to advance. It gave me the opportunity to understand something, to get better at. We all talk about failing, right? Everybody's going to fail. You have to fail. You fail thousands and thousands of times. As long as you're failing forward, then you're doing the right thing, because all those failures lead to the actual success. I'm a big believer. There's no such thing as failure. There's success, and then there's seminars. You learn through the seminar to get success. Thomas Edison tried to invent the light bulb thousands of times, right? Before he finally got it. If he had given up at 600 or 700, we'd be sitting here in the dark. You have to just keep advancing, keep looking. Okay, I'm glad that one didn't work, because now I don't have to worry about that product again. I can try this instead. So it's just a real deep philosophy of understanding that don't be a victim. Don't deal with all the stuff that did go wrong or can go wrong. Just always move forward and always be thinking about, okay, how can I use this to become better?
Yeah, no, I think that's so important, of not having that victim mentality and in so many areas of your life, because I think that's where a lot of people unfortunately get stuck, right? That's what stops people from really advancing. And
Yeah.
whether it's an emotional thing or mental thing or physical thing, whatever. Because, by default, human nature is typically to seek out the path of least resistance, go for what's easy. And what's easier is to blame somebody or something else and absolve ourselves of responsibility.
Yep.
That's the safer route for us to go.
Yep. And we mentioned it before we started recording. To tie into the other side of that is the Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink book, which it's funny because I listened to the book probably 2-3 years ago. And I always believe in this extreme ownership, take responsibility for everything. It's your fault, deal with it and fix it and find a way. And then I went back and listened to the book again earlier this year. And I'm like, well, I didn't even remember. That's obviously the premise of the book, but sometimes what we pull out of the book is not actually solidified as obvious as we think it is in the book. We go back and listen to the book and I'm like, it's not what I remember, but the premise is still the same. We pull out of it what we want. So I'm a big believer in that extreme ownership concept of it as well, which ties right in. It is what it is. It happened to me. It's my fault because it happened because of X. I had a crappy guest at one of my short-term rentals. That's my fault because I didn't screen the guest well enough, or I didn't get an upstream enough to make sure that they had the answers they were going to need. This contract fell out. That's my fault because I didn't make sure that I had this information ahead of time, or I didn't do my job well enough to make sure that the buyer understood what we were getting into, or something along those lines. So it's just adopting that concept. And man, your life gets a whole lot easier when you stop blaming anybody else for everything else that's happening. Doesn't mean you put yourself into a downward spiral of negativity. It's not about that. It's about accepting that what could I do better to make sure that this doesn't happen.
The
Right.
1% thing that goes
Yeah.
with that and the fitness thing. You
Yeah.
mentioned Jocko really quick because I know that you guys both don't like unnatural like sugars and you try to stay away from that. So I don't know, Derek, if you do, but I know Caleb, you probably do. So he makes a pre-workout and protein powder. The pre-workout's called Jocko Go, and the protein powder is called Mulk, I think, MULK. I don't know what it's called, but my husband lives and swears by it. But it doesn't have unnatural sugars in it. I actually don't like it because it's not sweet enough for me, but it's because of that. But I think if y'all want to ever look that up for whatever reasons that y'all need it for.
Yeah. And just real quick on that, so sugar, and not to belabor the point, but so there are some good sugars.
Sure.
Like
Well,
you
yeah.
mentioned, I think you mentioned monk fruit,
Yeah.
agave nectar, and honey, like surprisingly, but raw, unfiltered honey.
Right.
These types of sugars, they don't spike your insulin, which that's
Right.
like one of the major negative effects that sugar has on your body. So when you have these sugars that do not cause that insulin spike in your body, they're actually beneficial for you. Like with my protein shakes, and I don't do it for the flavor because honestly, I don't like sweet things. Like I've trained myself over the years. I really dislike sweet, but I put raw unfiltered honey in my protein shakes just because it's a very healthy nutrient source. So yeah, there's lots of ways. If you like sweets, there's lots of ways to get that sweet taste in a healthy manner.
And I've learned too, when the order in which you eat your food has a big impact on insulin spikes.
Yeah.
So I started doing a continuous glucose monitor late last year. Again, 1%. People ask me, "Oh, you diabetic?" No. Why do you wear that? I'm looking for little improvements. And if I don't have data to know, I know how I feel, but if I have the data, it helps me understand it. Now, it only works if you're actually tracking your meals, which I'm not as good at as I should be. But what I learned through that, and I experimented and proved, was that you could eat the exact same meal in a different order and it not have the effect. So vegetables, protein, then the carbs and or dessert after. And I could eat the exact same meal and eat them in that order and have almost no spike at all in my blood sugar. I could go around and eat a bunch of bread, eat the carbs first, then eat the proteins, eat the vegetables last, and then maybe even have a dessert and see a big spike in the blood sugar. It's amazing how your body reacts to it. And the more you understand it, the more you can do. And the more you're getting data and paying attention, the more you'll understand how you can do it. So you can still eat the same stuff, just do it like this, and it won't have that effect on you.
Yeah. So many interesting things about it. And just to jump back a little bit too, and talking about the stoicism and the amor fati and all that stuff, and to tie it in with, from a Christian's perspective, what it reminds me of is, for example, that reminds me of thinking about the Apostle Paul. He was a character who had, his background was anti-Christian.
Yeah.
Right? So he was the ultimate Jewish person persecuting Christians until he had his epiphany on the road to Damascus and met Jesus and became a follower, and then complete 180 turn. And I guess it reminded me of that because, again, like when he later on would get people who came to him and say, "Who the heck are you to tell us that we're doing something wrong or
Right.
that we should be following? Look at what you did. You were condoning the murder of Christians."
Yeah.
And he didn't be like, "No, I didn't do that." Or it's beautiful. He lays it out. He's like, "Yes, I did that. I did this, but that's not who I am now. It's who I am now. And this is my purpose."
Yeah.
So it's reminding me of that a lot, of taking that extreme ownership, not blaming other people or situations, but utilizing it as the opportunity of, fulfilling whatever that purpose is that you're going towards.
And just like Derek, you said about you losing weight and stuff, and you're like, some people were shocked by it because I did it so fast. I want to bring up the same thing. I guess you'd call it like losing weight with your mentality. So I could tell a difference between you because I worked with you from the beginning of a contract falling through and how me and you are on the phone to something happening, let's say a low appraisal. I remember one time we were talking, you're like, "Yeah," this was like, I guess after your epiphany and started, and you're like, "Yeah, we'll see what happens and we'll go with it." And I was like, "Oh, okay." "You good?" You're like, "Yeah, I'm good." I'm like, but so it's like people can see like a total difference. You are different
Yeah.
And people sometimes won't know how to react to that and be like, what's going on? You get it? Like, why are you different? And it's a cool thing because it's like, it's the same thing of losing weight. Like people can tell something different about you. And it's neat how your total mindset can change, not just the way people see you, but the way that you see the world and how you interact with it and have such a better positive life than you would with just like stressing over everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just mentioned that the stressing over everything. So I was historically always a warrior, had a lot of anxiety. And one of my favorite quotes that has come out of listening to a lot of the stuff I listen to is a Mark Twain quote. He said it probably multiple times, different versions of it. But basically he says, I've suffered many tragedies in my life. A few of them actually happened. It ties back to that worry. It's like our fear of what is going to happen has a much worse effect on the actual event happening. And if we stop thinking and worrying so much about what might happen and just, okay, let's do what we need to do. Let's do our best to get ahead of it so it doesn't happen. But if it does happen, I'm mentally prepared for it, or I have put contingencies in place to be prepared for it. What you were talking about a little while ago, Cale, it's funny is, first of all, there is so many parallels between Stoicism, and Stoicism is not a religion. It's a philosophy, basically. But there are so many parallels between Stoicism and Christianity as far as the core beliefs and what they, obviously those two came up about the same time in the same country, in the same general area. But then you can look at Buddhism. You can look at a lot of these Eastern philosophies that over about the same time all came to the same conclusions about general morals and ethics and things of that nature. They were all coming to the same conclusions. But bottom line is Seneca, one of the original ancient Stoics, walked the earth at the same time as Jesus. Nobody can document exactly what year he was born, but some say he was born the exact same year. But they literally walked the earth at the same time in different parts of the Roman Empire and were preaching very similar concepts without knowing each other. So it's like there are so many alignments to that.
Yeah. And again, just from my perspective, at least, is we see more and more as science becomes more advanced and this and that, we see more and more things at the end of the day, rediscovering ultimately what frankly was laid down in scripture in the first place.
Right.
And it's always interesting to see that. For me, it's a reaffirmation of my things like that. But it's always cool, I guess, when you see that. And you're talking a lot about the scientific and the just real world practical effects that these things have had on you. But at the end of the day, you're focusing on, like we talked about, you're focusing on positive mindset, forgiveness, love, which again, these are the core principles that Jesus and good Christianity taught.
Yeah, all the same principles, all the same basics.
Right.
Absolutely.
Got lost along the way, these thousands of years in corruption and deception and all these things. And we have to get back to those core principles.
Yeah, absolutely.
And before, I wanted to make sure we touched on this, and I know we're already getting towards the end here and we have so much more we could talk about, but I wanted to make sure we did hit on the charity and the giving. You had brought it up, and that's one of the things I really wanted to touch on with you. And I guess maybe to start it off, if you can maybe share, because I had heard it on another podcast that you had done, the challenge, I think it was, that you had given or done on, I think it was on that Croatia trip, was it?
Yeah, that was a part of it. I'll go back a little bit. When I was starting down this journey and I had gotten healthy and I decided I was going to be successful, that I was going to have money. Not that success is dictated by money, but that was part of the journey. And the more research I did and the more I read about all these successful people, contribution always came up. And Anne Frank was quoted as saying, nobody ever went poor by giving. So there's all these different aspects of how do you succeed in life, and that we're given stuff and it's our responsibility to contribute back to those that have not able to. So I got into this mindset of I needed to identify myself as a giver, because I was not a giver. For most of my life, I was not. I didn't believe in it. My ex-wife used to tithe to the church. I would actually get angry at her. We need that money. And it was not a good state of mind to be in. So I shifted that a little bit. And part of it was the more I dug into it, the more I identified as a giver and got myself into consistent giving, the more I got back, the more I could clearly see that I was getting back out of it. So I became very intense about it because I felt like I was not for so long, that I felt like I was trying to make up for it. So A lot of people tithe, a lot of people use the 10%, but what I've made a mindset shift that for me, it was 10% of every dollar that went into that hit my bank account. Now, when I was just W-2, that was pretty easy. And that's what most people would do. As I started to build a business, as I started getting into real estate, both as an agent and in my short-term rentals, I started taking 10% of the gross.
Okay.
So if I get a commission as a sale, 10% of that commission, before any taxes are paid, before any expenses are paid, 10% of that commission goes into my charity account. And I actually set up a separate savings account for charity. And for a while I was doing automatic transfers and they don't really work anymore. So I do them manually. And even on the rental business, and this year I've slacked off because it's been a little tougher because I've expanded. But even on the rental business, 10% of the money that came in Airbnb deposits, $1,000 in my bank account, $100 is going to the charity account before any expenses, before any mortgage payments, before anything was paid. So I was putting 10% of gross, whereas usually a lot of people are putting 10% of net. So I built up a fair amount of money in this account, and that's what its only purpose is. That's why I could bid on 40 years of Zen and spend the money that I went on it. So your question about Croatia. So in Croatia, that was a GoBundance trip. So there was 29 millionaires on a boat in the Adriatic Sea, and we're doing what's called the one sheet. If you guys aren't familiar with GoBundance, we do these. It's like a baseball card. It's your statistics, not just financial is a small part. It's financial, it's health, it's contribution, it's goals that you have, things you need help with. One of the things that GoBundance is really big on is helping us grow as individuals. So part of any time you do a trip like that is you do one sheets together. So 29 of us are going to go through our one sheets, and I'm doing my one sheet, and contribution is a very important part for me because of this journey I've been on and what I've seen it do. So I stood up there in front of 29 other guys. And initially, I just said, I will donate $1,000 to any charity that you guys want me to. You name a charity, and I will donate $1,000 in your name, not in my name, in your name, to the organization of your choice. And then one of the other guys who was there was a wise gentleman himself, said, that's awesome, Derek. Why don't you challenge the rest of us to match it? So I said, okay, fair enough. I'll do it. You guys also have to put in $1,000. So I ended up donating right around $30,000. A couple of guys, surprisingly, there was a couple of guys on that trip that never gave me an organization. I was basically saying, I'll give $1,000 to any organization you say. And these guys were so deep down the not giving rabbit hole that they couldn't even ask me to give $1,000 to that charity. And then there was a couple of organizations that needed more money for a specific cause. There was 2 guys individually, 3 on the boat that were looking for a little bit more. So I donated more to their organization. So I know it was $30-something thousand that I ended up donating on that. And the one guy who called me out and said, match it. And I said, you need to step up. He 10x'd it. I donated $1,000 to his charity that he chose. He donated $10,000 to his charity because he saw it. And I have helped to inspire a lot of people within GoBundance to step up their game a little bit. You don't have to go 10x. You don't have to suddenly go from donating nothing to donating $30,000. Just donate 1% of what you're making. And if you're donating 1% now, try to double it and get to 2%. Just find something that is either you're passionate about, or one thing that I do a lot with contribution, something very simple that all of us can do. We're all on Facebook. 99% of us are on Facebook. And how many times do you see somebody, it's their birthday and they're raising $200-$300 for charity, for an organization that means something to them? I see that, I'm donating. And in most cases, I'm maxing it out, because to me, a couple $100 is no big deal. I've got money sitting in this bank account. That's what it's there for. A couple $100. But for the person that I'm doing that for, somebody I went to high school with, somebody who's struggling at a W-2 job and makes $30,000-$40,000 a year, and they've got 5 kids and it's all this drama going on, and I donate $200, $300 to a charity that they care about, I don't know if that $200 or $300 is moving the needle for the charity, but it's moving the needle for that person. And it means something to them. And it's not that I care, it's helping them. And it's not that I'm looking for the recognition of it. It's just that I know that it's doing good, both for the organization, but also to help that person see that there's people out there that care, to help inspire more people to want to give a little bit more. And I don't like to use, people say give back. It's not giving back, because it was never ours to begin with.
There we go.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm so glad. I wanted to bring that up. And I do the same thing as you, with setting aside the account or the separate account and stuff like that. And I think I I like to say that it's a good habit to get started with
Yeah.
as soon as possible, right?
Yep.
Because
Absolutely.
just by the nature of things, again, if you wait until you are successful, unfortunately, again, just,
Yeah.
human nature, the way we are selfish and tight fisted, right?
Yep.
So if you're very successful and then all of a sudden you're like, ooh, 10%, that's a big number.
Yep.
It's going to be a little harder than if you start when you have less and it just becomes an everyday habit.
Yep.
Just continue as you grow. And the cool thing that I wanted to point out, because this has been something that I do struggle with still, is, so there's a scripture verse here and I pulled it up because I wanted to read it properly, but it's from Matthew 6:2-4. So it says, so when you give to the needy, do not sound a trumpet before you as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets to be honored by men. Truly, I tell you, they already have their full reward. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And I bring that up because it's always been a double-edged sword for me, because, like I said, I do the tithing and I keep that separate account and everything just like you, but I've kept it very close to the vest to really say what I'm doing with it or put anything out there, because I always go back to that verse and I'm like, man, in secret, and maybe I don't trust myself a little bit to not want to take some of the glory for it. But the second part of it, though, is if you do it with the right intentions, like what you did with putting it out there in the challenge, and it's inspiring people to, that can be such a powerful thing to get started down the path of giving that maybe would not have started before. So again, that's just like a mental hurdle for me to think about, but hearing what you do and how you did that makes me rethink what I've been doing as well.
I think it's all about intention though, because you need to ask
Right.
yourself, like, am I saying this out loud for people to give me recognition, or am I doing it for to help and get this out? Because I will roll my eyes. I know our whole podcast is about not judging and all that stuff, but I'll just be honest. When I see somebody on Facebook, like I gave a homeless man $20 today. I'm like, I don't care. Like, you don't need to post it for the world to see. If you're doing it for good, then, that's not the point of it. There's a total difference between, okay, this is actually what Derek did. Hey, I really want to inspire you guys to do this. It wasn't even about him. It was, he brought back on those people, like, in your name, like not my name, in your name. And then versus him going on Facebook and being like, well, he's not much on Facebook anyway, but I donated $30,000 to this charity day. Good for you. Who is that helping?
And it's people you surround yourself with too, right? It's accountability. Big aspect of GoBundance is about accountability. So it is challenging, and I do it not to brag, but I'm trying to make other people feel a little bit guilty. I want the people who are making 8, 10, 12 million, or worth 8, 10, 12 plus $1 million and are donating less than what I'm giving or less than. So I will do it not to brag on myself, because I want them to think about what they're doing. Within GoBundance, I actually am on and help lead the Genuine Contribution Council, where I'm trying to help 800 other guys understand what contribution can look like and what it means. So when you're doing it for that purpose, because I am the last one, I don't need the pats in the back. I am not that person. And I was like you, Kale, a lot of guys, I was like, keep it close to the vest and don't talk about it. There's even a Stoic line that's similar to what you're talking about. He's talking about, why do you need the third thing? You helped somebody and you got the benefit from it. Why do you need the third thing of the recognition? We don't need the recognition. We shouldn't need the recognition. We did it because it helped them and it made us feel good. And that's the other side of contribution that I remind people is, look, when we start from the beginning, you can tell yourself whatever story you want. Most people give because it makes them feel good. That is selfish. There's nothing wrong with being selfish or feeling selfish when the result is helping other people. Because let's face it, that's reality. Yes, we can take it as our responsibility, but all of that ties into, when we do it, we feel good about it. We feel better about ourselves because we did that. And people think that it should be like a guilty thing, that it should make them feel bad to let it go, and it shouldn't. And that's the thing that I want to help people understand, is that it is a positive thing and it should make you feel good. And it's okay that it makes you feel good, because that's the point.
Right. Yeah. And ultimately, it's a freeing thing as well. Like when you do, for example, if it is like you and I do, it's setting aside a separate bank account for it, it is a freeing thing because if you see a need,
Yeah.
then you have this all ready to
Yep.
go. Versus if you don't, and then again, you just get into that mental battle. Ooh, there's a lot of money. I have to use it for this or that or the other thing. So yeah, it's a very freeing thing when you actually instill those habits and have that system already set up for yourself. So I think it's great. And I didn't even share this with you, Brenna, yet, but it was just like, actually, I think it was on Friday. Somebody had reached out to me who, as part of the conversation, they were sharing a success that they had in a business thing. But then they brought up that they had started listening to the podcast and that had inspired them to start giving again.
Oh, nice.
And I just,
Yeah.
interesting that it coincides with our conversation and having you on today. So again, just to bring that back to what you guys were just saying, if the intentions are done right and it's done with the intent of helping and inspiring others, the impact of actually sharing it in the proper manner can be tenfold or 100-fold of perhaps keeping it in secret. Just some things to think about with that.
Hey guys, it's Brenna Carl, CEO and co-founder of The Mortgage Shop. When I'm not spending my time searching for the best pizza in town, working out because of pizza, or fighting sharks as Kale likes to say, I spend my time educating clients on the best investment products that will help them build generational wealth and making sure their loan process is as smooth as warm butter on a piece of toast. Call us today to get started with your investment journey at 800-816-7982 or talk more about pizza. Talk to you soon.
Derek, so you mentioned earlier, and I know we changed the topic off it because I wanted to dive into the fitness and everything a little bit more, but
Yeah.
you had started off and you introduced how you came to know Luke and Avery, get involved in the short-term shop. I got your realtor's license and everything, and that's where I cut it off. So why don't
Yeah.
we pick that up again and take us through how that journey evolved to where you are now and what you got going on?
Sure. So the real estate journey. So Luke introduces me to Rich Dad Poor Dad, to Bigger Pockets, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get into real estate. And if you listen to Rich Dad Poor Dad, or you listening to Bigger Pockets, I went back to episode 1. So this was 2017. I went back to episode 1 of Bigger Pockets, and I literally listened to every single episode in order with whatever new episode came out that week tied in. Now, I wasn't listening to a bunch of other podcasts back then. I was only exclusively listening to Bigger Pockets. So it was a little bit easier than it is today. And today there's too many of them. I skip half of them now. But I literally went back. Now, the scary side of that, when you realize, God, I wanted to get into real estate, all the benefits of real estate and investing, and you start listening to these Bigger Pockets episodes. So I went all in on that side of things. So doing that basically led to, okay, I'm chasing all these different rabbits. And I bought a single family home, did a burr. That was 2019, went too good, like almost, oh crap, the next deal is going to be an absolute disaster because this went too well. And then I was around Avery, I was around Luke, and they were buying the cabins, and Luke was trying to get me to understand. But Luke is also really good about trying to talk you out of it as well. Are you sure you want to do this? Because here's what the numbers are going to look like. He wants you to make sure you really understand. He doesn't want you to get shiny object syndrome and just dive into this thing. And this was back again before the boom that we saw in these last few years. So I finally, after getting a couple of single family homes, mainly because one was a true investment, I did one flip, and the other single family homes, the only 2 single family homes I still own today were both formerly my primary residences. So those are the only 2 single family rentals I have right now, as far as long term. So I started going down that path, and then it was, well, Avery was doing it on her own. I had gotten my license. So I was helping her a little bit. We weren't with the same brokerage. We weren't connected, but we were friends. So she actually lived in Middle Tennessee. So she would reach out to me every once in a while and say, hey, I've got a client in town. I can't be there. Would you go open a door for them? Or would you meet them and show them around a little bit? So I would do that a little bit just as a friend, right? So I would help her out in that aspect of it because she was just a single agent back then. She didn't have a team. There was no short-term shop. She was just Avery Carl. And about mid 2019 is when it started to develop. She was going to create this brand. She was going to create this team. And she had brought on one full-time agent to work with her and one part-time agent to work with her. And I was going to be the next agent. I was going to join her team. And I left the brokerage I was at. I was with a local franchise, but I was with a local larger broker. And I joined EXP, which was the brokerage that she had ended up with because she had gone through a couple of brokerages. So I joined EXP summer of 2019. And it just goes to show people not realizing and holding themselves back. She was doing very well. She had hired another agent, but her and I had this deep friendship. And she was like, I don't know if I'm going to have enough business to bring on another agent. And I'm really worried about our friendship. Are you going to be okay with sharing commissions with me and all this other stuff? Because we have this friendship and I don't want to ruin that. So we both had extremely limiting beliefs. I had a limiting belief that I could succeed as a real estate agent. She had limiting beliefs on what she could do, how much business she could create, how much she could bring. So to recognize this was just 4 years ago, she didn't think she was going to have enough business for 2 more full-time agents and a part-time agent. And today we have almost 60 on the team, right? And a lot of people who have only come on the last 3 years don't understand the concept. Avery would literally do a one-on-one consultation call with every single client that came onto the team. And then she would either help them herself because she was still an active agent then, or she would assign them to one of the 3 of us. There was 3 other agents on the team at that point. So in that first week, I had 7 phone calls with clients, and I had 7 clients lined up, roaring, ready to go to buy property. And as you mentioned in the bio you read, from 2018, October 2018, I got my license to March of 2020. Before joining her team, I did a total of 4 transactions. 2 of them were properties I bought for myself. And the other 2 were people that I worked with. That's how most real estate agents do. They do 5, 6 transactions a year from people that they know. That's just how it works. There's thousands of agents. There's only so many houses that sell. So joined the team, and literally 2 weeks later, the entire world shuts down. COVID completely shuts off. Out of those 7 initial clients, I will say at least 4, maybe 5 of them did eventually buy a property with me, but only one of them did so in short time. So fortunately I had not quit my job. I stayed at the Harley shop, was working with Avery. Basically I was working 2 full-time jobs at that point. Now I was divorced. I was single. My daughter had moved out. It was me and my dog. I had all the time in the world. I had nothing else going on. And I decided that I was going to be successful in life. And that meant I was going to put all my time into this. So I went all in on it. So working the full-time job at the W-2, real estate steering, I went under contract on my first property around this time, ended up getting my first closing in May for a client. So that's May of 2020. And I closed on my own property in May of 2020. So those are the first 2 closings I had. From May of 2020 through December 31st, 2020, I ended up closing 40 transactions total. So I did 2 in May. The other 38 came in those 7 months, the rest of the year, all through the short-term shop, all leads that was just the world. It shut down in March. In May, East Tennessee and the Smoky Mountains opened the floodgates, and it was like the largest fire hose that ever just been unleashed on this country. People had pent up. You could come to the Smokies. Nobody was judging you. Nobody was caring if you were wearing masks. There was mask mandates, but nobody gave a crap. They were encouraging you to be outdoors. Hell, go to the national park. There's 900 miles of trails in that damn park. You can have a whole lot of people there, and you can maybe never bump into anybody else. What better place to be in this environment? Downtown Pigeon Forge was a little more scarce than what it is when we see it today because of that. But basically, people were attracted to the fact that they could come to this market. The investment world took off. Kale, you got involved right around the tail end of that 2020. And then, so 2020, I had just this huge momentum. I'd been talking to my boss at the Harley shop. He knew I was on this path. He actually partnered with me on 2 of my first long-term rental, the flip I did, and my very first long-term rental. He actually partnered with me on those as a private money lender. So I was trying to burn the candle at both ends and try to stay on the Harley dealership, but without having to put that much money in. So I was really good at still doing that, but there was a lot of guilt building up in me because I didn't feel right doing it. So finally in October, I went to him and I said, man, it's time for me to call it. We've been working hard on trying to put people in place to set the business up because I was in a prominent role. And for me to just step out could have been painful. Everybody's replaceable. Nobody is that important. Get over your high horse if you think you are. I don't care how important you think you are to your company. You can be replaced. So I knew I could be replaced in some way, shape, or form. But I also knew that the owner, after 15 years of working with me and that I handled all this for him, I knew it was going to be tough on him to just have somebody else just come in and do all the things that I did for him because he didn't have to learn how to do them. He didn't have to think about it. And now he was going to have to. We went back and forth and he goes, what does this look like? And I said, I'm going to go. I said, I'm going to put in my notice. I gave him a month notice. Ultimately, I gave him 2 years notice is what I really did. And he still partnered with me on 2 deals. That's a whole nother story. I think it was November 9th, 2020 was my last day at the dealership, but I stayed on as a consultant with them. I helped them for another 3 to 4 months. So then I went all in on real estate. So 2021, I'm doing well. I no longer have the time. People ask me, so what was it like walking away from your W-2 job? And I was like, you got to realize I was doing so much work in real estate that all it meant, because I had moved to Pigeon Forge at this point too, all it meant is that when I woke up in the morning, I didn't have to drive to the shop. I could just go to my kitchen table. I was doing the same damn thing. So it just meant I no longer had this other thing that was a burden on me that I had to pay attention to. I could let that go and I could focus 100% on the real estate, which actually is what amplified me to be able to do what I did in 2021, because I had that other piece away, but I didn't have any boredom because I had plenty to do. Oh, yeah. So fast forward, we get into 2021, I got all this momentum, all these deals are building up. The whole world is going crazy buying short-term rentals. And I work 13 hours a day, 7 days a week. I told my clients, I said, look, I am available from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Actually, I think I told my clients 9 to 9 and I would still work 9 to 10. 9 to 10, I'd be responding to emails, but I'd be setting them up to be sent out at 9 a.m. the next morning because I didn't want my clients thinking that I was actually working at 9:30 at night responding to their email. I wanted them to think that I woke up at 9 a.m. and responded to their email. So I just gave away one of my secrets because I had to have that time. So I would go to bed 10:30 with my brain running. I would get a good night's sleep. I would wake up about 7. I would put in my own little miracle morning. First 2 hours of the day were for me. 9 a.m. that computer opened and I didn't move from that desk. And I had hired my daughter at this point to start working for me. So she would come to the house 3 to 4 days a week. She'd be sitting in the other room. So she'd be just like listening to me. She'd be like helping fill in gaps. She'd be taking notes. She'd be making phone calls, running errands, things like that for me. She'd be making sure I ate something. She'd be making sure that I had a bottle of water next to me because I literally wasn't getting off the table for hours on end. I was negotiating deals. I was looking at listings. When I would have to go run out and meet a client or something like that, man, I could put on a good face, but man, I was stressing because I'm talking to you. I know you're going to buy a property. I'm like, there's 8 other people that are waiting on me to respond to them. It was such a challenge. I pushed all my clients to email. I said, email me. That is hands down by far. You will get a better response, a more articulated response. You will get more information if you email me. So I got very efficient at how I did business. So anyway, but I went pretty nuts on it. And by the end of the year, I closed 130 transactions, which is probably will remain a record for a while with the short-term shop. Nobody's come close to that. And it for what it was, it's like, it's not a brag because I will tell people I had so many clients who would reach out like, man, I want to do what you did. And I'm like, no, you don't. You really don't. You like what it looks like now, but this was not an easy journey. This was tough, but I took all that income, smart thing. I had no expenses. I had bought a duplex in Pigeon Forge. I have one of the rare house hack duplexes in Pigeon Forge. I lived in the apartment upstairs, remodeled it downstairs, and it was a short-term rental. So I was living for free. I had basically zero expenses. I was making really good money. And I took every dollar I made and I started just buying real estate, not buying stuff, buying real estate. I closed 8 transactions. Of that 130, one of them was one transaction with 5 properties, but I bought 8 properties in 2021 for myself. Wow. And that was the whole goal was I'm going to take all that money, invest it in my own investments, build my own real estate portfolio, so that I don't have to sell real estate eventually. Because when you're a real estate agent, I like what I do because I like helping people. But I'm on call 7 days a week, 13 hours a day. Like I try to take a trip and go away, I still have to respond. My girlfriend hates it. I'm like, I still have to respond because that's how I make money. That's where my business comes from. So it's hard because we love doing it and we want to do it, but there is an end game. Build the real estate portfolio so that you can have passive. Not that actually exists, but you can have income coming from your real estate that gives you more time freedom to be able to enjoy life and not feel like you need to be tied to your phone all the time. So that's been the goal. So I just kept doing that to build up this portfolio of short-term rentals so that I could create systems so that I could just put everything else aside and then just go live and enjoy and do some of the life. Not that I'm not going to keep working because I'm way too driven to not do something, but I want to have a little bit more of that freedom back. So That's the condensed version of the overall story of what led to that. And the little pieces that I'll throw in that could lead to all kinds of questions that you guys are both conscious of.
I want to go through all of what you just said. And there's so many people that could listen to this and be like, okay, I'm going to do what he did. I'm just going to sit at the computer all day and do this and make my money. But the one key difference is you had a passion for it and you wanted to help people.
There's a lot there. One, first and foremost, every person is on their own individual journey, and there's no two people whose journeys are going to look identical. It's just not going to happen. And a lot of what happened to me was just very good timing. Now, you won't hear me use the word luck, because I'm a big believer in the funny thing about luck is it shows up to the people who put themselves in the right place at the right time. But I saw it and I took advantage of it. People want to follow that kind of a journey, then use it as a guide, use it as a template, but your journey is going to look different. And it's going to be what's going to be like right now that you can't duplicate what I did right now because the market is not there, not the same thing. COVID was a catapult for me to be able to do what I did. Most people aren't going to say, oh, great, let's have another COVID, right? They don't want. But that was fuel for my fire. Those things all led to those types of things happening. For me, I'm a big believer in it has to start with a why. No matter what it is you're doing, you've got to have some type of direction you're going. It doesn't have to be an end goal or an end game, but you have to know what you're moving towards in order to figure out what that journey looks like. So you start with, what do I want it to look like? Maybe not forever, maybe not the perfect. I'm still trying to figure out my true why, but I know where I'm going right now. I know where I want to be next week, next month, next year. I have a general idea of what I'm building towards. And that helps you understand what you need to do today. Just breaking it down. What do I need to do right now in this moment that is going to move me towards my eventual end goal, and then take action on those things. So I knew what those actions were. And as introverted as I am, which people argue with and don't believe that I am, as introverted as I am, I recognize that relationships and talking to people are what is going to drive all of us forward. You reach out and you help somebody else, that is going to come back to you tenfold. It comes back to the contribution. We talk in GoBundance about 3 ways to contribute. There's treasure, which is the money part. There's time, which is go out, swing a hammer, help in your local community. And then there's talent, which is what do you do now? What are your strengths? What is your superpower that you can then mentor, train, teach, help other people or bring to the table? Anybody who's on the board of an organization is contributing their talent because they're on the board because they have something to offer that organization. So for me, sharing my story and talking to people and doing podcasts and doing all this stuff is about that. This is about me trying to contribute my talent to help inspire people to recognize that there are a lot of paths. You're not going to go down my path. You're going to build your own path, but you can take ideas from my path and figure out how to incorporate them into yours. And dead on what you said, Brenda, it is absolutely comes back to contribution. It comes back to giving. And I want to contribute and I want to help. And as busy as I am, when I get into an environment like this, especially in 2021, like I was saying, when I would have to go meet Kale or one of my other clients and I have this anxiety because I have all this other stuff I got to do, I also enjoyed that. I enjoy doing this, being on this podcast. I got lots of other stuff I can and maybe should be doing right now, but this is more important to me. 1, for both of you, and 2, for the community out there that's going to see it, because that is where the contribution comes in. That is where the benefit of all the rest of the stuff will happen. So be selfish, give back, because you will get it back tenfold. And it's not the only reason we do it, because clearly it wouldn't be genuine and it would be very obvious if it was not genuine. But put the effort in and you are going to get to the places that you want to go and you can get well beyond them. You will, what I've done in the last couple of years, no matter how much I had tried to convince myself in 2018 or 2019 that I could be where I'm at or do the things that I've done, you could not have convinced me it was possible. And it was just because I stopped pretending that I knew what was possible. And I stopped just giving of myself in any way I could, knowing that it was going to help propel me to a place that I knew I was going to be happy and where I wanted to be.
You reap what you sow. It's amazing how that works. Yeah.
And that is funny. You bring up those exact words. I'm going to give a plug to when I first moved to Nashville. Maybe not when I first moved, I hung out. This was in the mid '90s. Some guys that ended up becoming good friends of mine, what ended up being my roommate, were in a band called Valhalla. They're a metal band. They are still out there today in Nashville. They going on and off, but they are back together. They do a few shows here and there. They're a mix of Iron Maiden, Metallica, and in the '90s, the metal scene was huge. Their CD was called "Reap What You Sow."
There we go.
Wow.
I still have a couple copies of it.
Awesome. Derek, this has been really cool, very enlightening for me. I know I learned a lot about you that I didn't know. And it's a really good story on all these different aspects, talking about positive mindset, great fitness insights, great business and motivation insights. So yeah, I think this has been great. And thank you for sharing that story. To wrap it up here, we got 2 closing questions. First one is just 3 actionable or practical tips based on what we discussed to leave our audience with.
Drink more water. Fitness side, it's that simple, and people struggle with it, but it really is. From a fitness side, it's drink more water. From a faith side, I will say find something that brings meaning to you and just dig deep into it, whatever that is. Whatever that looks like to you. Faith means a lot of different things to a lot of people. Find something that you care about and dig deep into it. That'll help you get clarity on what your faith looks like. Or if you already have that, just go deeper on it. And from an investment standpoint, I'll use my simple real estate one. When you've decided you want to get into this game, 1, do the research. Don't listen to one podcast and decide you're going to go invest in short-term rentals. Do the research. So that would be part A, do the research. And part B, when you're ready, make offers. Don't overthink it. Making an offer doesn't mean you bought it. Make offers, use education, listen to your agent, listen to the advice other people around you give, but take action.
There we go. Bam. Brenna, take it home.
I don't even think I've ever asked you this either. So hopefully you do like pizza, or I don't know. In our friendship. No, kidding. What's your favorite type of pizza, from where and why?
Oh, golly, man, today or over the course of my whole life?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
I could have different answers, because the pizza I ate when I was 18, 19 in Rhode Island is not the pizza I'm eating today. Right at this stage of my life, as corny as it sounds, I go for a veggie pizza, but I can't say that's truly my favorite. I would say, if I look back at my life, my favorite pizza that some people will turn their nose up was Domino's deep dish. There was a time in my life when I lived on that shit.
I didn't know do they have that still?
I don't know.
I don't think they do.
It's been many years since I've had it, but if I look back the course of my whole life, just pepperoni and sausage and Domino's deep dish was what if I had to look back at my life in different aspects, different phases, I think that's the pizza that I'm most excited about. Although I grew up in the Northeast, where there was a local pizza joint on every corner, and no franchise can ever compete with the local pizza joint that they just don't have in the South. Yeah, I could flip back and forth, but I'm going to give it to the Domino's deep dish.
Yeah.
Deep
There
dish.
we go.
Okay, good. We're still friends. That's awesome.
Awesome. Derek, as busy as you are, where can people reach out to you?
Easiest thing is Derek at theshorttermshop.com. Whether it's real estate related or personal, there's no sense in handing out a bunch of different email addresses. Hit me up at that email address. If it's about short-term rentals, you're interested in the Smokies, we can continue it from there. If it's personal and you just want some advice, want to just chat about anything I brought up, I can redirect you from that point. I'm not super active on social media. Facebook is probably the easiest place to get me, but I don't look at it often. Email is by far the best.
Perfect. There you have it. Again, thank you very much, Derek, and stay tuned. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.
All right.